Hello everyone, Mr. CCDV here. I've recently seen a few reviews on Paul Verhoeven's version of Starship Troopers. One of which proclaims that the reviewer will stick to the book by Robert Heinlein and the movie by Paul Verhoeven. While watching the review, there were many mistakes that the reviewer made based on modern sensibilities and political views. Don't get me wrong, the movie, which came out in 1997, gets many things wrong all on its own and doesn't need any help from a modern social virtue signaler that has never served a day in any public service. Police, firefighter, military, or just serve a cup of soup at a soup kitchen in downtown Los Angeles. From the word vomit of this pers femme script, regurgitating sounds his, her, it, them, whatever. Look, he looks like a man, so I'm just going to call him a man. For now, I'm going to say him. I can't get all these possessive pronouns and honorifics straight anymore. It's driving me crazy. His professors in college drilled into him. If you choose to parrot words that are drilled into you instead of coming up with your own thoughts, go right ahead. If you want to critique a movie on the merits of the quality of the film or the acting, by all means, do so. If, on the other hand, you have never served a day in uniformed service, do not presume to lecture me on whether a soldier is disciplined, well-trained, or weak-minded. There, my rant is over. For now. Back to Starship Troopers. The book by Robert Heinlein starts with this acknowledgement. To Sarge Arthur George Smith, soldier, citizen, scientist, and to all sergeants anywhen who have labored to make men out of boys. Hey, I resemble that remark. This quote alone sets the book apart from the movie. Let me explain. Mr. Verhoeven said in the commentary track for the movie that he never read the book. That really explains why his vision of the Terran Federation looks fascist. I don't know how much of Edward Neumayer's screenplay was changed during filming and editing. However, considering that the movie fairly closely follows the narrative of the book, I'm wondering if Neumayer was a fan of Heinlein and his screenplay was as close as he could get to the book, while narrowing it down to 1 hour and 40-minute narrative. I have a feeling that that's the case, but I really don't know. In the book, the Terran Federation is a constitutional democracy. Sound familiar? The United States is a constitutional democracy. What? Not the home of Orange Man Bad? Yeah, your freedom to make these kinds of video essays is a direct result of a constitutional democracy. Shocking! So, terms of service to gain franchise, that's the right to vote, basically, are not mandatory for any citizen. Yes, all of the personnel in the Federation are citizens, but it is the citizens that perform a term of service to the body politic that are given the right and responsibility to vote and care for the body politic. Robert Heinlein was not a fan of universal suffrage. RAH stated in one of his less well-known quotes that nothing of value is free. The quote that most people have heard, even if they don't know it came from him, is Tanstaffel. Yeah, Tanstaffel. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Even if you don't know it came from Robert Heinlein. Same concept, different book. The movie implies that the Terran Federation has two classes of citizen. This is not correct. It's just that the citizens that did not perform public service were not given a responsibility to lead in any office in the Federation. The movie implies that the military is the only form of federal service one can perform. Also false. The book specifically states in Chapter 2, when Rico tries to sign up for federal service, the desk sergeant actively tries to talk him out of it. He states, the desk sergeant states, that if Rico doesn't end up digging tunnels on Luna, that's the moon, or playing human guinea pig for new diseases, he may end up in the military. Now, no one fails the medical exam. If someone rolls into the station in a wheelchair, blind in both eyes, the Federation will find a job, maybe figuring out how much fuzz is on each caterpillar by touch. The point is to make your service hard enough that you understand that you have paid for the privilege of care for the politics of the Federation. No pampered princes running the Terran Federation. Now on to basic training. This is the part of the video review that I had the most trouble with. Yes, he was reviewing Space Marines. Also a problem because they were Army, but nonetheless. So, I will not dwell on his video much. But I will point out a few of the flaws in his word vomit that he regurgitates. He regurgitates a lot of someone else's ideas. First, number one, effective soldiers are sociopaths. Wow. Two, the Federation training is too dangerous and yet not good enough. Wow. The tactics, weapon, and armor are subpar. I agree, the movie doesn't show very good weaponry. Got it. Fourth, and nearest and dearest to my heart, soldiers who freeze in training or combat are weak-minded. First, effective soldiers are sociopaths. Wow. I mean, Wow. Wow. We actively screened out sociopaths. We did. I mean, nobody in the Western world, in our modern society, wants a sociopath as a soldier. They have no connection to humans. They have no real feelings. They can sometimes fake it, but for the most part, really, wow. Wow. This is one of the silliest accusations I've ever heard leveled at one of my brothers and sisters in uniform. And trust me, I've heard it before, and it's still silly. It's just ridiculous. I mean, that is, wow, total nonsense. We are all volunteers for one reason or another. Either patriotic duty, job security, college money. There's a myriad of reasons that people join the military service. We are not myrmidons, warmongers, or sociopaths. Neither are the mobile infantry in Starship Troopers. The soldiers in both the book and the movie are soldier citizens that are choosing to take responsibility for the state. In fact, in the book, they hang one of the recruits that deserts because he murdered another citizen. The Starship Troopers take care of their own. They are a very moral group. In fact, in the first chapter, Rico gets the shakes before each combat drop. He's made multiple drops when we meet him in the first chapter. He goes into his backstory later on. Sociopaths do not get the shakes when they are looking forward to combat. Even in the movie, this is contradicted in a different way. Diz, in the movie, played by a woman, is killed on a combat op. Rico reacts like any normal man, grieving for a friend and a lover. In the book, Diz is a man. However, Rico still goes back after he gets killed to retrieve the body because they don't leave anyone left behind if there is even a chance for survival. So no, the Starship Trooper Mobile Infantry are not sociopaths. Number 2. The Federation training is too dangerous and yet not good enough. What? I am confused. I am confused. We train to fight. The harder you train, the less you bleed. That is a military axiom. Train realistically, train hard, and you have a better chance of survival. One of the arguments the reviewer made is this: a militaristic society like the Federation must train their soldiers from a young age to be effective fighters. Not true. He goes on to say, young adults, 18 and over, are not likely to become effective soldiers. Even though all modern Western nations do that. This is self-contradictory. No one currently serving in the armed forces, special forces, SEAL teams, paratroopers, rescue swimmers, etc., 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 were trained for military service from the time they were 10 years old. At least not legally. Moving on, it is pointed out that in the movie, Drill Sergeant Zim breaks a recruit's arm. Yep. We don't do that now, of course. However, hand-to-hand combat is still taught and is very tough. Accidents happen. In the case of both the book and the movie, Drill Sergeant Zim is establishing that he is an expert in combat of all kinds. He is establishing dominance in order to be an effective trainer. Some drill sergeants still do that today. Take, for instance, another movie in which a training officer must establish dominance and a reputation for an expert fighter. In The Dirty Dozen, one of my favorites, the major provokes the largest trooper to attack him with a knife, then promptly puts him on the ground and disarms him. He is an expert that earns the respect of the worst the Army had to offer during World War II. The other instance that many people point out, when Drill Sergeant Zim throws a knife through a recruit's hand. Here is where the book and the movie diverge. In the movie, Drill Sergeant Zim remains a hard-ass throughout training, with a couple of exceptions for Rico. The question in the movie was, what if I have a nuke in my hand? I can just push the button. Drill Sergeant Zim then responds by throwing a knife through the hand, disabling his ability to push the button. This is one of the possibilities. This is true. However, in the book, Drill Sergeant Zim explains a philosophical concept which includes following orders, silent approaches, and here is the part that the movie missed. Totally. Drill Sergeant Zim offers his unofficial view: if you want to teach a baby a lesson, would you cut off its head? No, you would paddle it. This is not a cruel question. The Terran Federation is a multi-world empire protecting its territories. The policy is not to kill off every alien species they meet. The majority of drops before the attack of the arachnids are quick strike raids in retaliation for attacks on the Federation. They are teaching, in this case, the skinnies, that the Federation will not stand idly by while their territories are attacked. The skinnies are being back and forth, let's say, between the arachnids and the Federation. So they're counter spies, I guess, is the best way to put it. The movie implies that the arachnids are the only enemy of the Federation. That's not true in the book. Yet, the book implies that the Federation is not just human. We teach other species by spanking them, not killing them, that nukes or global domination is not always the best solution. The last example he gives is the live fire exercise. Yep, we do it. It is extremely rare that a soldier get his head blown off like it shows in the movie. Yet, it is still done for every single basic training class, even today. Mind you, there are so many safety procedures in place that the kind of accident shown in the movie is nearly impossible. And I say nearly because it is actually possible. Nonetheless, soldiers do this, in fact, because it acclimates you to a combat environment. Not totally. I mean, you'll never be totally acclimated to a combat environment until you're actually in a combat environment. However, soldiers do die in training. It happens a lot. Not on the scale of civilian accidents, ironically. Nonetheless, accidents do happen. In the book, several troopers die. Not on a live fire exercise. They're on a field exercise. Survival training, in fact. I've gone through survival training. It sucks. Wow. I mean, it sucks. You skin a rabbit, you've skinned a rabbit. I tell you what. It's actually called gloving a rabbit. Anyway, so survival training sucks, and I mean, yeah, it's survival training. Well, anyway, if you don't have realistic training, you end up failing when you have to fight. Just an afterword for this section by itself. Lieutenant General John Schofield's definition of discipline is as follows. The discipline which makes the soldiers of a free country reliable in battle is not to be gained by harsh or tyrannical treatment. On the contrary, such treatment is far more likely to destroy an army than to make an army. It is possible to impart instruction and give commands in such a manner and such a tone of voice as to inspire in the soldier no feeling but an intense desire to obey, while the opposite manner and tone of voice cannot fail to excite strong resentment and a desire to disobey. The one mode or the other in dealing with subordinates springs from the corresponding spirit in the breast of the commander. He who feels the respect which is due to others cannot fail to inspire in them respect for himself, while he who feels and hence manifests disrespect towards others, especially his subordinates, cannot fail to inspire hatred against himself. This is the major difference between the film and the book. Robert Anson Heinlein went to the Naval Academy at Annapolis. He would have studied this definition while he was a midshipman. He understands training and how you break someone down in order to build them into a model that is useful to the service the recruit volunteered for. onto tactics, weapons, and armor are subpar. The argument about tactics fighting the arachnids is silly on almost every level I can think of. First, it's a movie. They might have had a military advisor on set. I doubt it. I'll talk about the armor later. In this case, they are invading. They are not expecting heavy resistance. The plan is to set a foothold or beachhead, then set up permanent defenses. Obviously, this plan did not survive contact with the enemy. No plan ever does. I have to admit that I am writing the plan for the generals in this case. They don't say it in the movie, but whatever. It's a movie. What else can I do? In the book, the troopers were in full armor, yet still lost quite a lot until equipment improved. The saying in the book is this: if we kill 1,000 bugs and lose 1 troop, the advantage is to the bugs. It's not that they didn't know about the queens and brains. They knew. There was just nothing that could be done until their equipment caught up with the fight. That's still true today. These troopers were trained to an edge of sharpness that is not totally useless in a formed unit such as Razchek's rednecks. However, it takes years of constant training and practice to become a professional soldier. If you think of the military as a trade, you have apprentice. That's basic training. You have journeyman. That's effing new guy. Frackin' new guy. You can think of the other word yourself. And then you have master. That is a professional soldier that can shoot, move, and communicate proficiently. In the book, the troops wore full body sealed armor with a flamethrower on one of their arms, railgun on the opposite arm of the flamethrower, regular high explosive missiles that they could throw everywhere, and high explosive rounds that they were shooting out of whatever they had. And man, I wish I had one of those. These guys were ambushed, but they were prepared. In chapters 12 and 13, Rico is deployed as a cadet lieutenant. Yes, in the movie, he promotes very rapidly from private to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant. In the book, it is a much more gradual and realistic. I don't like movies, modern movies, for this reason. Much more realistic ascension in rank. He actually went to officer candidate school in the book, and there are 2 chapters devoted to his time in officer candidate school where he's learning how to be an officer. He's learning math, he's learning trajectories, he's learning whatever it needs. He's learning how to be an officer. In the movie, it's like, hey, I need a lieutenant. Guess what? You're it until I find someone better. I mean, there are battlefield commissions, but not for people like Private Rico. So just relax on that. The military is a much more professional organization than that. Anyway, so In chapters 12 and 13, he's deployed as a cadet lieutenant. During this deployment, he and his platoon is ambushed with some green troopers, yeah, and he is not yet commissioned. He's an inexperienced platoon leader. I don't know if you can see that on the wall, but I was a sergeant first class. I trained lieutenants. Trust me, inexperienced lieutenants are tough to train. But anyway, so he's had experience as a squad leader. He's in good shape. So they survived the ambush with very few casualties, actually. This is down to, yes, training and equipment. By that time, they had gas bombs that they could send down into the bug holes and kill the bugs and the queens, and sometimes even the brains. So, yeah, they upgraded, and by the time they went to Clandathu, they were prepared. Even though they got ambushed, they still broke out of the ambush, and they fought through to victory on Clandathu. So, the movie gets it wrong. The book gets it right. Whatever. It's no worries. I mean, the movie is still a lot of fun to watch. I still love it. Carl in the book dies. Carl at the end is one of the badasses. I like that. I'm okay with it. Anyway, so I like the movie. I do. I like watching it. I watch it every once in a while just for fun. But I read the book much more often than I watch the movie. Now, and this is the last paragraph, the last few minutes of this. The reviewer I did critique the movie. I did critique the book. I like the book. Obviously, I don't agree with all the politics in the book. And I don't agree with any of the politics in the movie, but the movie's a lot of fun to watch. The book is brilliant. This is the part that the reviewer got totally wrong. Soldiers who freeze in training or combat are weak-minded. This is the end because I cannot keep my temperature. I can't keep my temper after this. I am 70% high-level PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. Getting your order at Starbucks wrong is not a traumatic experience. I'm sorry. High-level PTSD after 4 combat deployments. There are many soldiers and airmen and Marines who have had more than 4 deployments. For a guy who spent 18 years, 4 deployments is actually pretty average, considering. Since you, Mr. Reviewer, have never gone without food or water in a 115-degree convection oven with sand being blown in your face for 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months, I have a recommendation for you. This July, drive to South Central Los Angeles. Go to Compton. Go to Southwood. Don't go to Watts. You'll die in Watts. Sorry. That's just the way it is. When you get there, turn the heat in your car all the way to maximum. Put a plate of fine dust right in front of the vent that blows in your face. And then turn the fan all the way to high. Wear a shirt that says white power. Then step out of your car, walk 2 blocks. See what happens. I dare you, you pampered twit.